Good evening, peoples. Today is Sunday, February 18th, and I am here with your geopolitical news. I'm on a YouTube platform on a channel called We Love Africa. I repeat, the channel is called We Love Africa. And as you can see in the title, ICJ just rejected South Africa's application against Israel's attack on Rafah. And so, as many of you know, if you've been paying attention to the content that I've been putting out, I've been tracking this case, and so it was important to me that I give you guys an update on the situation. So now Israel has already been given directives, or basically a decision was already made in the International Court of Justice that says that Israel must take provisions and, you know, a couple of other things that it says that Israel must do moving forward as it proceeds in its military campaign in the Gaza Strip. And so this situation was an application that South Africa put in, applied to the court, because Israel is planning an offensive in the city of Rafah. And so there are so many civilians that are in this city, so many civilians that have been pushed to this city. And so, how is it possible that if there's no other places for civilians to go and they've been pushed or directed into one area, how is it possible that you're about to do a military offensive on that very area? And so, South Africa found it appalling, egregious, outrageous, all of the things that intellectual human beings would feel, all of the things that people who stand on the side of humanitarian rights would feel. And so South Africa made an application to the International Court of Justice, and it was rejected. And so this story and stories like this need to be brought to light. Because if we ever come to a inflection point in this country where we reach a civil war or a civil unrest, these individuals need to be documented, they need to be noted. This time needs to be documented and this time needs to be noted. And these individuals definitely need to be sought after if there is a civil war or civil unrest in this country. And that's not just this country, but countries abroad. These individuals are the individuals that we all can say we know need to be brought to justice. We don't care about what you have written into law, the ways that you have manipulated law, the ways that you have manipulated policies. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And these things are clear under God. These things are clear under your higher power. And this is what I keep warning us of. Not just you, but I keep warning myself of as well. You must be vigilant when it comes time to defend God's law. When it comes time to defend your higher power's law, you must be vigilant, because there are powers that be on this planet that will try to stop, that will try to intervene in this course of action. So I'm going to play a little bit of this video, but as you can see from the title, it's really not much to be said. As you can see from the title, it's self-explanatory. So we can give a reaction to this video, but sadly, the fact is the fact.
How could South Africa safeguard Rafah, a region in Gaza that homes 1.4 million Palestinians, from Israel's ground offensive? Well, South Africa had only one option: to drag Israel to the International Court of Justice again and make an example out of it this time. It's because Israel was asked to avoid acts of genocide. and South Africa thought ICJ would not tolerate any longer about the matter. But guess what happened? The ICJ responded in a way that nobody expected. Instead of accepting South Africa's formal request to interfere in the matter and restrain Israel from attacking Rafah, the ICJ did something unbelievable. So, what has it done that has shocked international legal experts from all around the world? Let's find out. On Friday, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant announced that Israel is carefully planning a military offensive in the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah, despite growing international concerns about the safety of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians seeking refuge there. You should know around 1.4 million Palestinians, over half of Gaza's population, have gathered in Rafah, most displaced by conflict.
So as it's telling you, most of them have gathered in the city of Rafah. So they've been pushed to this place. They've been pushed to this place thinking that it was a place of refuge, only to find out, as they found out previously, that this place of refuge is not actually a place of refuge. It is about to be a place of horror, destruction, and mayhem.
Conflicts in the region, with hundreds of thousands living in extensive tent camps. In other words, Palestinians from all around Gaza have come to Rafah to find a safe refuge, and now Israel plans to attack it. In response, President Joe Biden has urged Israel not to proceed without a credible plan to protect civilians and has called for a focus on achieving a ceasefire. He said that he was optimistic that this could be achieved, and he hoped the Israelis would refrain from a large-scale ground invasion. Biden revealed ongoing negotiations for the release of hostages, and Israeli media suggests Netanyahu will brief the government next week on the army's strategy for assaulting Rafah. What's more, Egypt has warned that an offensive on Rafah could strain diplomatic relations, with many other world leaders expressing similar concerns. Put simply, everyone knows that attacking Rafah means a slaughter, as the UN has said. However, Israel remained unhindered. Channel 12 reported that Netanyahu planned to present the army's blueprint for attacking Rafah to the government, involving relocating Palestinians to central and southern regions of the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military aimed to prevent Palestinians from migrating to the northern territories, Channel 12 added. War Cabinet member Benny Gantz's Friday statements support the continuation of the conflict, even during Ramadan, and advocate expansion to Rafah if Israeli captives in the enclave are not released. Israel's intention to target densely populated Rafah, declared a secure zone where displaced Palestinians have sought refuge, has been met with international criticism. Everyone knew attacking Rafah would mean a catastrophe. Therefore, South Africa decided to reach the ICJ again and ask it to interfere because Israel was clearly violating the earlier ICJ's verdict. But guess what?
So what has to be noted and what has to be said is that Israel, after the ICJ's ruling, Israel has already begun to violate the ICJ's ruling. And I've already reminded you guys that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already made a public statement saying that nothing will stop Israel. So he's already made a statement saying that he really doesn't care what the ICJ does. And so if the ICJ rules against Israel, they won't care. And if it rules in Israel's favor, then they'll just use it as proof as to say that they're not doing anything wrong. And this is the nature of these individuals. This is the nature of this country. This is the nature of this military and this government, where they will ignore the right thing and ignore the wrong thing, completely continue to do the wrong thing, and whatever they see fit as being right will be right, and whatever we see fit as being wrong, well, that'll just be our problem.
But guess what would have happened? On Friday, the top court of the United Nations dismissed South Africa's request to escalate legal pressure on Israel to prevent a potential military operation against Hamas in the Gaza city of Rafah, asserting its obligation to adhere to existing measures. South Africa had called for urgent steps to safeguard Rafah amid Israel's intentions for an offensive in the city, considered to be Hamas's final stronghold in the area. Previously, South Africa had lodged a complaint against Israel in the International Court of Justice in The Hague, alleging that Israel's actions in Gaza violated the Genocide Convention. While the court has yet to make a definitive ruling on this matter, it instructed Israel on January 26th to take steps to protect Palestinian civilians and permit humanitarian aid. However, the ICJ declined South Africa's primary request to order Israel to halt its military campaign. As of now, the ICJ stressed the precarious situation in Rafah, insisting that the measures outlined on January 26 must be implemented immediately and effectively, covering the entirety of the Gaza Strip, including Rafah. The cited reason behind the rejection of South Africa's application is that the World Court reiterated that Israel is obligated to fully comply with its responsibilities under the Genocide Convention and the court's directives, ensuring the safety and security of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. However, South Africa believed that Israel would violate the court's order by attacking, even though the actual ground offensive has not started yet. Plans are already being made. Therefore, South Africa made a rational choice by reaching the ICJ to get an order that would refrain Israel from attacking Rafah. What's more, Israel is already doing airstrikes on Rafah, which is a clear violation of the ICJ's orders. But despite this, South Africa's application was rejected. Instead of accepting the application and doing a debate on the matter, the case was halted. It appeared that the ICJ was itself in no mood to pressure Israel. Therefore, Israel got a chance to criticize South Africa, accusing it of exploiting the Genocide Convention to shield the Islamist terrorist group. In a concise document, Israel dismissed South Africa's entire application as unfounded in fact and law and morally repugnant. Israel maintained that the situation on the ground in Gaza had not changed since the ICJ heard South Africa's genocide allegations in January. It argued that the so-called unprecedented military offensive in Rafah, mentioned by South Africa on February 11th to rescue 2 Israeli hostages, which Hamas claimed resulted in the deaths of dozens of Palestinians, in fact, has not happened. Israel labeled South Africa's characterization of an unprecedented military operation in Rafah as an outrageous distortion. It asserted that it was Hamas showing contempt for the law by not complying with the ICJ's call for the immediate and unconditional release of all remaining hostages.
In my opinion, the hostages should have never been released. It is in my opinion, in my humble opinion, and I am absolutely sorry for those of you who are listening to this segment, to this video, and you hear my voice. In my opinion, the hostages should have never been released. There would have been no negotiations of any prisoner exchange or any hostage release. That would have never happened, and it should have never happened. And that is my humble opinion.
Jerusalem accused South Africa of using Netanyahu's statement to manipulate the court, asserting that it exposed an intention to abuse the Genocide Convention. Israel argued that the conduct of the conflict is governed by international humanitarian law, over which the court has no jurisdiction in this war. Israel further said that it was evidence of a renewed and cynical effort by South Africa to use provisional measures as a sword rather than a shield, and to manipulate the court to protect South Africa's longtime ally, Hamas, a genocidal terrorist organization, from Israel's inherent right and obligation to defend itself, in accordance with the law, from the terrorist assault it faces, and to pursue the release of over 130 hostages. But how could the ICJ give such an outright biased response? Well, it turns out that it's exactly what Israel wanted from the ICJ. When South Africa submitted the application, Israel had asked the International Court of Justice to dismiss South Africa's request to issue additional emergency measures because of Israel's plan to extend its offensive in Gaza into the city of Rafah. Therefore, in documents released on Thursday by the ICJ, Israel argued that the emergency measures issued 3 weeks ago already covered the situation of hostilities in Gaza as a whole, and the
So they're basically saying to the International Court of Justice, we don't need no extra emergency or security measures. The security measures that have already been implemented are enough, and they're saying that they're going to move forward. And so the International Court has recognized that, yeah, they agree with the fact that the provisions that have been put in place a few weeks ago from the previous ruling are enough, and that there doesn't need to be any extra provisions. So understand that you're dealing with people that are pure evil. If you can't see that, it's right there in front of your face. These people are pure evil. They absolutely care about nothing. And so it's clear. You can't say that Hamas or Hezbollah or Iran or Russia or China, like they always want to paint a picture like these people are so evil, like they're the evilest people on the planet Earth, and they're evil and they're good. Well, you're showing the world that you're not good. You're showing the world that you absolutely don't care, because not only do you not support a ceasefire, but you're absolutely supporting what's going on with the military campaign in the Gaza Strip. You're not stopping them. You're not you're not you're not making them deter away from certain areas where you absolutely know that there's a civilian population that where civilians have been sent to for refuge, you're not deterring them away from these areas. You're saying whatever it is, whatever military campaign they have going on is up to them, and that's their business. This is what you're saying to the world. And for some you think for some weird reason that we're going to all just accept it. We will never accept this situation. This situation will never be forgiven. We will never forget this situation. We will never forget what you have done. And for those of you that hold your tragedy, your pain, your your people's plight, segregation, murder, killing, if you believe that your people's plight is bigger and more important than others, then yeah, you're going to feel that way. So Benjamin Netanyahu keeps repeating the same thing. He keeps repeating what happened in the Holocaust. You understand? And he keeps referring the few hundreds of people that something happened to on October 7th to the millions of people that died in the Holocaust. He keeps making a comparison, which the intellectual thinking people know that that's absolutely absurd. It doesn't even make sense. In no way, shape, or form or fashion is October 7th in anywhere comparable to the Holocaust. You absolutely think we're dumb. You think we're dumb and stupid at the same time. If you believe that we believe that what happened on October 7th is anywhere, any way, shape, form, or fashion comparable to the Holocaust. It is not. So you don't get to keep using it. What happened in the whole, you don't get to keep using it. And then, you know, sadly, you live on a planet where it's just some people who absolutely do not care. You know, the same way you can ignore the plight of people who were enslaved for hundreds of years, the same way you can ignore these people, you can oppress these people, and you can segregate, kill these people, imprison these people. The same way you've treated them with no care is the same way a group of people can treat your people with no care. But once again, like I said before, this is not a Jewish Muslim issue. And those individuals who are calling themselves Jewish, Benjamin Netanyahu calling the Israeli military a Jewish military, are you insane? There is no way on God's green earth that you can call yourselves Jewish. You are not Jews. What you are is yet to be determined, but you are absolutely not Jews.
Court should reject the South African request. Now, after rejecting South Africa's application, the ICJ has become controversial. It has made it clear that it's getting direct dictation from Israel. If that was not the case, South Africa.
So now the court, the kangaroo court that I said before, it's a joke. You understand? It's a kangaroo court. So it's a joke. Now we all know it's a joke. So we can ignore and disregard this court. What they rule, what they say, we absolutely don't care because we know that it's a joke. So it's like I keep saying to you, eventually we're going to have to wake up, we're going to have to meet up, and we're going to have to take action. Eventually, we're going to have to wake up, we're going to have to meet up, and we're going to have to take action.
Because application should have been considered and decided to be heard. So, what's next? The International Court of Justice will hold 6 days of hearings starting Monday on the legal ramifications of Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territories. 52 states will present arguments as the court addresses a 2022 request from the UN General Assembly for a non binding opinion on the occupation. Although Israel has typically disregarded such opinions, the ICJ's hearings and subsequent ruling could heighten political pressure regarding its military offensive in Gaza. Therefore, even though South Africa's
So Israel gets they get to disregard what they like, and then they get to, use what they like. So they'll disregard certain rulings and certain um opinions and views. They'll disregard that. We just totally disregard that, just totally ignore that. People are speaking now, people are outraged, people are this, that, and the third. Just totally disregard that. South Africa is accusing them of committing genocide. Oh, totally disregard that. And like I said, whenever they get a ruling or anything that's in their favor, the United States supports them. The ICJ rejects South Africa's application for against Israel for attacking Rafah. They'll use that in their favor to say, you know what, we're doing the right thing. The International Court of Justice just ruled in our favor, so we must be doing the right thing. And this is what they'll say. But you and I both know that this is complete absurdity.
application was dismissed, Israel has yet to face another blow in the ICJ. It is part of a Palestinian initiative to prompt international legal institutions, such as the ICJ, to scrutinize Israel's actions. During a briefing with journalists, Omar Awadallah, a senior official in the Palestinian Foreign Ministry, said that politically, this would assist in advancing a two-state solution and that they were leveraging the platform of the largest judicial body to promote their cause. This marks the second instance where the UN General Assembly has requested an advisory opinion from the ICJ.
Every time I hear the phrase two-state solution, I get it almost angers me, because I know that is also complete absurdity. It will never happen, people. I don't know why you think that you can kill children, women, elderly, destroy homes, land infrastructure, schools, places of worship, and you think that there will be a two-state solution. It's almost laughable. There will never be a two-state solution. There will always be a problem. There will always be an issue. This conflict will never end. And if you are intellectual thinking individual, you will realize that it will never end. And you will say, you know what? These groups of people need to be completely separated. They don't need to live amongst each other anymore, because it has gone far beyond reconciliation. There is no reconciliation. There is no two-state solution. The only thing that there will be is continuous attacks, ongoing, ongoing, ongoing. You understand? Until until all of the Israelis who are occupying are gone, or until all of the Palestinians, sadly to say, are deceased, there will be no end to this conflict. Switching over to the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. I retweeted this post a while ago. This is, Hezbollah officially recognizing the freedom fighters that they lost in a conflict with Israel. And so, for me, as I said in the previous segment, the hostages and those that were taken on October 7th would never have been returned. That is my humble opinion, and it is my opinion and my right to have. I view the situation and I view it as such. The hostages were taken for a reason. They should have never been returned. As your loved ones, speaking of Hamas and the Palestinians, your loved ones have been kidnapped, tortured, raped, imprisoned, and they have not been returned. So it is my opinion that the hostages that were taken on October 7th should not have been returned. There should not have been any negotiation. This is just my opinion. And as I said before, I know that there are many of you that are listening that are going to be appalled, outraged, and upset about my opinion, but yet and still, it is my opinion to have. None of us are involved in this conflict. Um, well, none of us are involved directly in this conflict. Your taxpayer dollars are being used to aid militarily and financially some of these countries that are engaged in conflict. So, you know, by default, it is incorrect to say that we are not involved. But nonetheless, none of us are physically involved in these conflicts. And so, as I said, it is my opinion to have. I believe that the hostages that were taken on October 7th should never have been given back. And as I previously stated, is because the kidnapping, the rape, and torture of many Palestinians and many women and children from Palestine and taken into Israel, abducted by Israelis, kidnapped by Israelis, raped by Israelis, and imprisoned by Israelis. And we are not just talking about Hamas soldiers or whatever they would like or have you to believe. No, we're talking about men, women, and children. We're talking about elderly people. And we're talking about brutal, savage kidnappings, arrests, rapes, and tortures. This is what we're talking about. So this is a brutal enemy that we're talking about. So there's no reason to have any sympathy or any remorse as it relates to them. And so as we continue to move forward and days go by, like I said, you will begin to say that this individual who is reporting the news, who is reporting these geopolitical events around the world, he is beginning to become radicalized by what he is seeing. These are the words that you love to use when you are doing something so wrong, so unjust, and someone speaks out or stands up against it. And so this is the reason for the sentiment that I have. I would have never given the hostages back because that wasn't the reason that they were taken. They wouldn't have been taken for a negotiation. They would have been taken for a different purpose. But yet and still, the brothers over there chose to do whatever they chose to do, and they chose to carry out the mission how they chose to carry it out, and may Allah be with them. Follow Street Icon on all social media platforms. That's at Street Icon 1 on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, at Street Icon 8080 on the YouTube platform, and Street Icon on all social media platforms. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about the stories that was brought to you today. Specifically, how do they make you feel? Did you know about them? Drop a comment in the comment section, and always remember, stay vigilant, stay safe. Peace.